Hello, friends. Hi again. How are you doing today? Hopefully, doing well. Hopefully, you had a good sitting today. I usually I notice that I feel like continuing from my previous video after my morning practice or before when I've done some sitting. What I usually do is first I sit here in my little practice space in my bedroom. We also have here in the center, we have proper practice room, but we have a dog and a cat. And if I sit anywhere else except in my bedroom little sitting space, they will come to interrupt me. So I found that this little bedroom sitting space with a small altar here that you've seen in other videos behind me is the only place in the house where I can sit without being interrupted. But yeah, usually I sit here a little bit, maybe an hour and a half before I go to a dojo behind me. It's an outdoor dojo we have here in the center in Slovenia. And there I do some physical practices for some time, and then I probably sit more out there if it's warm enough, or come back inside and sit. But anyway, I often film these videos after or during my morning session, and it seems to become like a routine. It wasn't that long ago when I was still kind of contemplating. I was thinking about this for a very long time, for a number of years, whether to start YouTubing, whether to become a YouTuber like this. But then, I also contemplated for many years about this project of revitalizing Zen, or I could have chosen other title for it, like moments I think that maybe evolving Zen would have been better, but I chose revitalized Zen. But I thought about this revitalizing Zen project for many years, many years. Um, and I guess it meant that I didn't take it and don't take this project lightly. Not at all. It's a very serious matter. Because we are dealing with the great matter beyond life and death, isn't it? But anyway, I became a YouTuber, and now I kind of feel that I have a bit of routine in doing these short videos. And I hope that these short videos bring benefit to many. And now it's late March 2025, and in May we will start having practice sessions. So let's see if there are people interested in what I'm offering. I actually already decided that I will, the short practice sessions with teachings and then online sessions, I won't do them longer than maybe a year. So I will do them consistently for a year, but after that, it has to be live sessions and live practice sessions. So we'll just have to see if enough people are interested after 1 year for me to continue doing this. All right. So a follow up on Shikantaza, just sitting. I published few days ago part 1 of Shikantaza, just sitting. I think it was number 4 or number 5 in this YouTube series of Revitalized Zen. And these are what I'm presenting in this video are thoughts and observations, what I have, the way how I see Shikantaza as Buddha nature sitting, like I explained in the former video. But yesterday I was watching a famous author and Zen teacher, American Zen teacher, it was a video from his teaching, and I kind of felt that um, it wasn't correct. So I wanted to comment on the points, on the matters that how he presented, or how he views Shikantaza, which is the heart and soul of Zen practice, and actually heart and soul of all Mahayana Dharma, all Mahayana Buddhism. So recognition of our own Buddha nature, our own nature that is sober and clear, soft and kindness radiating, spontaneous joy radiating, and then groundedness, peacefulness. This is simply expressed the three basic qualities of our Buddha nature that permeates our body and permeates our subtle bodies, both the meridian system inside the physical body as well as the energy field that is our aura. So these three qualities, clarity or sobriety, with a knowing quality, I will go into this more and more as I make these videos. So clarity, softness, kindness, love, spontaneous joyfulness, spontaneous happiness, and then groundedness, peacefulness. Remember these three. Very important. Because these are the basic characteristics of our Buddha nature, and therefore the basic characteristics that are necessary to recognize and to experience when we sit Shikantaza. Okay, so I was actually just recently reading Zen Master Dogen's Shobo Genzo, and the first chapter called Bendowa, where he speaks, kind of outlines some really important basic points, fundamental points of his tradition and his view, and outlines his practice. And this is something that was mentioned by this American author and Zen teacher. And in Bendowa, Zen Master Dogen uses the phrase that practice and experience are not two, but one. So practice and experience are united together, not separate. And what he means by practice is the practice that the exercise that we exercise, let's put it like that. And what does he mean by experience? So experience, practice and experience, these two words are, can't remember the Japanese phrase, but this English rendition of practice and experience is from the Gudo Nishijima Roshi and cross translation of Shobo Genzo. But what is meant by experience is that practice and Buddha nature and its characteristics are united. So you cannot have a practice, authentic practice, zazen, shikantaza, without this recognition of Buddha nature. My cat Minnie just showed up. She always, I was just saying about the interruptions. But it means that our practice and Buddha nature need to be united for us to be able to say that we are following Zen Master Dogen's way, his method, and the way and method taught and outlined, expressed by the Zen patriarchs. Minnie, Minnie. She's trying to tilt over my filming gear. Come here. So, this actually, this author and Zen teacher, he said that he said in the video that that it took him a while to understand that what that phrase means is that practice and enlightenment are not two things, but should be together, united, and not separate. And then he also continued with something that was said by Zen Master Dogen when he said that, when we assume the posture of sitting meditation, the way how Shakyamuni Buddha sat, and the way how Shakyamuni Buddha is depicted sitting, in this upright, cross-legged, hands joined like this in a mudra, that assuming, taking this posture equals to those two, practice and experience combined. Okay, and this view is something that is expressed by lots of Zen teachers, especially those of the Soto tradition. But there are problems there. Okay? And here I'm kind of, before explaining these problems, here we are kind of coming face to face with points that I've expressed in the previous episodes of this YouTube series about practice methods, I'm in these videos, I'm slowly going through the long text that I wrote about Revitalized Zen and the practices that I teach and we practice in Revitalized Zen, that, for example, dynamic concentration that has been practiced up until 1950s in Japan by both Soto, in Soto Zen tradition, as well as in Rinzai Zen tradition, to generate kenshos, to puncture a hole into our samsaric, self-deluded, selfish bubbles, so that we can momentarily recognize our Buddha nature, ourselves as living and breathing Buddhas. So, practice and experience united together. It is immensely problematic if we do not understand what this experience is referring to, what Dogen is referring to with this experience or recognition of Buddha nature, Buddha mind. And this is my, I think that Zen Master Dogen was an amazing master, and his writings are so beautiful, but his teaching, his writings are also, I think, a bit too simple, expressed in a bit too simple matter, without enough details, because it's just like, people reading any of these ancient holy scriptures like the Bible, and Bible doesn't really explain details of anything. So what happens consequentially is that people project their own understanding, of God, of Christ, of prayer, of anything, in this case of Zazen and Buddha nature and Shikantaza, into these texts. And consequentially, it automatically becomes misinterpreted, falsely understood. So, I've been saying for years in my Dharma work. I've been a teacher of uh, Sutra and Tantra, Buddhist Tantra, for nearly 17 years. And I've been saying for years that there also in Vajrayana, exactly the same in Zen, that there doesn't seem to be any standards with any of it. Doesn't seem to be any standards when in fact Zen Master Dogen and many other patriarchs, also in the side of Vajrayana, like in Mahamudra masters such as Gampopa, Chokchen masters such as Longchenpa, and many, many others, they have again and again and again clarified that the heart and soul of practice, of Shikantaza, just sitting, non-meditation, is Buddha nature and these three basic characteristics. So, that phrase that you just need to assume the posture of a Buddha and you become a Buddha, if you don't understand what is meant by the posture of the Buddha, then you're simply mimicking the external physical form while still being completely deluded and caught by your own samsaric, self-deluded, selfish mind. And then when you sit there, when people sit there, it keeps going around, or if there are no thoughts, the mind goes quiet, there is still this thick cloud of, formless mind, formless energy, like fog, like, fog, and people sit in this thick fog. There is actually something that is sometimes this oversimplified phrase is said that you just need to focus on the space between or behind two thoughts, and that would be Buddha nature. But no, it is not. It's a very basic, rudimentary understanding to know that what kind of things, objects, layers the mind, samsaric mind, includes. So, it is very obvious to speak of thoughts popping here and there, kind of like floating in the space, or, have a memory that triggers emotion, that triggers train of thought, and thought association starts happening. But there is much more, which is this is form mind, form-based mind, but there is also formless mind, which is equally samsaric, which means that you don't have these obvious bubbles of thoughts and emotions, but this underlying fog-like energy. Kind of like if you go to a field early in the morning, you will see that there is some fog, how do you say, like lurking? I don't know the English word, kind of like just floating above a field. And then if you start watching closely where the fog begins and where it ends, it is difficult to see the edge of this layer of fog. And this is precisely the case with our mind, our formless mind, that there is this thick fog, which in Sanskrit is called alaya vijnana, often translated as substrate consciousness in English. It's simply a part of the subconscious mind that hasn't taken a form, hasn't taken a form of thought or emotion or a memory, but it's this underlying mass. And then what I've seen over and over on Zen retreats, sessions over many years of practice is that people sit in this fog, kind of like stuck in a mud, believing that this is correct Zen practice, Zazen, Shikantaza, when in fact it is nothing but a samsaric state. And this is the greatest problem when it comes to standards in Mahayana Dharma, in Zen Buddhist Dharma. It's a huge problem because when there is no teaching, so where you separate the Buddha mind and samsaric mind, when it is not clearly explained what is what and how we need to recognize and establish this Buddha nature, and from there start looking at samsaric mind with that clarity, softness, groundedness, peacefulness. From that experience you come back to looking at samsaric mind, where there is no such basic understanding of how to make it work, how to practice the most basic fundamental meditation according to Buddha Dharma, Buddha's teaching. It's just the whole thing becomes marked by samsara, marked by the repetitive wheel of birth and death, the repetitive wheel of confusion, delusion, suffering. So if we misunderstand what Zen Master Dogen says, that you only assume the physical posture and sitting in that posture is correct zazen, shikantaza, we are completely mistaken and misled. What is meant by the posture is first and foremost the posture of the mind. Even a monkey can sit in the Buddha's posture. But we know that animals cannot cultivate. Animals do not have the ability to recognize their Buddha nature and through that to attain Buddhahood. Us humans do, but we still kind of sit like monkeys, unfortunately. So again, practice and experience needs to be together, unified. This is a most basic requirement. But then arises the question, how do I recognize my Buddha nature? How do I ensure that I am not wasting my time on this cushion or on these retreats one after the other? How do I can be certain that I am recognizing Buddha nature? And here we come to skillful means, upaya. It is said that Shakyamuni Buddha taught 84,000 practices, exercises, methods, techniques, which lead to Buddhahood. 84,000. Not only one type of meditation, Shikantaza, which is, you could say, very advanced practice, because it requires that the practitioner is capable of recognizing one's Buddha nature. So if you are a beginner, you have practiced, this is your day one of practice, or you have practiced 3 years, 5 years, it is not the practice for you. However, it is possible to repeatedly on daily basis in one's home practice, it is possible to make the recognition of Buddha nature happen. And here I'm coming to one of the basic practices in Revitalized Zen called dynamic concentration, which I know for a fact was practiced by, at least in some branches of Soto Zen, including Harada Tangenroshi when he was a young man. You know, I have mentioned Harada Tangenroshi, who passed away in 2018 several times in these videos. But Tangenroshi, when he was young, he practiced this. I know that in Rinzai they practiced this. I added a bit by Shinzan Miyamai Roshi, who passed away some years ago, who narrated, explained his experience of shouting practice, dynamic concentration. And this was actually also done up until, you know, Shinzan Miyamai, when he was young man, he did this. And then actually one of my students from Japan, he was able to find this bit of information according which some Japanese Pure Land temples and branches practiced dynamic concentration until it was stopped in the early 2000s because there was no Dharma heir to continue teaching it. So dynamic concentration, what does it mean? So here we are talking, I'm coming back to the second video in this series where I discussed briefly practices that generate kensho. So I'm talking exactly that. Kensho means recognizing Buddha nature. So when Dogen speaks of practice and experience together, it means that practice needs to be kensho. Kensho and practice are the same thing. To have kensho is what the practice is. That's what Shikantaza is. And it, in other terms, it means that we, instead of being carried away by thoughts, self-based thinking, habits, patterns, negativity, brooding, anxiety, shame, guilt. Instead, three basic qualities. Clarify your mind, soften your heart, ground your body. Relating directly to these three tandens, three dantians, head, heart and gut. So recognizing these three qualities, that's how kenshos, that's how we cultivate accurately, correctly in our daily practice. Okay? So it's almost half an hour, this video already. And I have published dynamic concentration materials for many, many years. Please check the posts on our this Revitalized Zen YouTube channel, and also posts, recent posts and going back many years in our excuse me, Facebook, Revitalized Zen, and you can find plenty of materials and examples of dynamic concentration. I've also given examples, different examples, you know, what syllables you can use in my book, What's Next on Post-Awakening Practice. And if you start applying dynamic concentration, shouting syllables in a relaxed but concentrated way, then it is inevitable that your practice and experience will be joined, combined, and then you can be sure it brings such a change in your whole being. And then we can be sure that we are following the path set by Zen Master Dogen, patriarchs before him, and patriarchs, matriarchs after him. Okay? You're all welcome to join me in the Saturday practice session starting in May and sessions starting in May, where I teach the practices, and we really do it well together. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful day, and may you be successful in practice. Thank you very much. Bye.